14.
Yes.
And her first collection of stories, Fachi. I don't know how many of you have read it, Flower Season. I remember reading it when I was very young. And it was just absolutely amazing experience. And she was 14 years old, and here she was writing stories that utilize Freudian psychoanalytic perspectives in looking at, a little girl's experience roaming the streets of Luba, in central Taiwan. And it was absolutely moving, series of short stories that I read very, very early on. And I think it was one of those things that was very formative for many of us who loved literature, when we were younger, right? I mean, why do we become literary scholars? Because we loved literature. And that was one of those books, Fachi, or Flower Season, that was really important to me personally. And since then, of course, she's written several major works, actually multiple or numerous major works. Among them, The Butcher's Wife, Shafu, which was published in 1983, basically has made her world famous. It's been translated into 10 different languages, including Japanese, German, Italian, Swedish, French, Dutch, English, Korean, and so forth. And I teach this book in my classes, and I know a lot of people who are not experts in Taiwan literature also teach this novel in various women's literature, feminism, and other kinds of classes. So I recommend it if you haven't read it. It's a really, really powerful read. I have an undergrad student who was in my class and read the novel last spring. Last spring, and here we have an undergrad.
All right.
And I think, one of her really major novels that many, many scholars have written about is called A Garden of Riddles, Mi Yuan, published in 1990. This is also one of my all-time favorite novels. I really strongly recommend it. She uses the metaphor of a garden and the kinds of plants you choose that are native to Taiwan as a way of registering history of Taiwan from the colonial period up to the 1990s. It's a very moving but powerful novel because, as you know, her work, especially starting from the 90s, is filled with sex and politics. And so, there's that going on in the novel too, including, of course, the provocative, right? Everybody knows this one, 北港香炉人人茶, right? Very provocative, the incense burner of lust, which, in Taiwan was absolutely controversial, got her into all kinds of troubles and notoriety, and television and other kinds of exposures. Liang is a celebrity in Taiwan. Whatever she says, everybody hears and listens. And the other major novels, autobiography, a novel, 自传no 小说, which uses the Japanese word no in the title, and a book that's recently gotten a lot of attention, The Visible Ghost, 看得见的鬼 in 2003. Several people are writing dissertation chapters on this novel, including someone sitting in the room. And for all of her accomplishments, she's been awarded all kinds of, honors. And a major one is the French Order of Arts and of Letters. It's equivalent to being kind of knighted. It's a knight's order of the Order of Arts and Letters that she was awarded by the French Minister of Culture in 2004. Given to the most important artistic and literary figures in the world. And a few years ago, Kenzaburo Oe, who visited Taiwan, the Nobel Prize winning Japanese writer, Kenzaburo Oe, who visited Taiwan, he said that, that Liang is one of the two most important writers from Taiwan. And I guess if Oe says that, then we must agree. One of her also latest novels that deals with, partly deals with the subject today, It's called Menu Dégustation, and it's recently been turned into a theatrical production in France by a theater group called the Oppression Theater Group. So you can see that your work really reaches many different arenas of cultural activities and expressions. She's really a Renaissance woman. I can't imagine someone who, started writing at age 14 and continues to produce so profusely. I just finished her latest novel called Possession, or The Possessed. It was another very powerful novel. So she just continues. And we're very, very pleased and privileged to have her here today to talk about sex, politics, and food. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I think that's one of the best, even the best introduction I have ever had, because Professor Su Mei apparently knows a lot of my writing, and give you guys what I wrote about in the past. And I'm so happy to be here, something, because some 30 years ago, I graduated from University of Oregon, got a master's degree in theater, but I still have a lot of money my father gave me at that time to study in the United States. So I came to Los Angeles, actually stayed in Westwood, just a couple blocks from the university campus, but I won't be able to find the place I stay, because I think must be torn down and build a new building or whatever. But I actually stayed in Westwood for almost a year, just wandering around everywhere. And I met a lot of gay and lesbian people there, and they become all my good friends. And I even get into the Hollywood business by telling the people that I'm a writer, and we have the foreign press community and all that. And I even went to one Golden Globe Award ceremony. I met Peter O'Toole, remember the old movie star? And many of them, amazing. I mean, the Golden Globe Award ceremony becomes such a big deal nowadays. But at that time, I remember I have nothing, formal to dress, and so I went to Chinatown to buy a silk blouse, and it's a long dress and gown, beautiful. And even the movie star came to me. At that time, they know nothing about China, or Taiwan, or whatever, or the Oriental culture, I think. And so a movie star even came to me and said, "Wow, this is such a beautiful gown." And that's really, that's one of my most exciting moments in my life in the United States. And after I spent all my money my father gave me, and I have no money to live in an expensive area like Westwood, and then I packed myself and then go home. That's how I did 30-some years ago. So nice to come back, and because after that I've been back to Los Angeles, but for some reason, I think that's the fault of my nephew and my niece. They never took me to this park. So when we drove along this morning in this area, Westwood, the deja vu, the familiar feeling came back to me, and feel, wow, it's nice to come back. Anyway, so nice to be here, and I better stick to what I'm going to talk about today. Okay, talking about writing, sex, and food, basically eating, and politics is going to be my topic today. And because of my poor English, I write down something with the help of my niece and nephew, Jeffrey and Carol. They are in the back. I would thank them first. They actually helped me a lot. Part of the translation. Okay, so this is going to be a strong and interesting topic, I hope. And if we have some moments, I'm going to make it short and quick, and so we can have a further discussion of a lot of things. I had a talk in Urban last night, and it's in Chinese, and so a lot of Chinese people there, and so we use Chinese to make fun of a lot of things. So we can do it today again, but in English, I hope. Is my English okay for you to understand? Okay, then I will read part of this. Okay, let's start. I'm a so-called controversial writer because I wrote about sex and politics. And why make me so controversial? I think one of the reasons I was writing during the modernist era. I mean, how would you call that, modernization? Modernism was is a strong movement in Taiwan at that time. And I studied a lot of Freud theory, the psychologist, the Australian psychologist, who was so famous at that time. And we all know he deal a lot with sex. I wrote, we have a lot of translation at that time. So I read when I was very young. I think I'm 12 or something like that. I started to read Freud. And I certainly believe he has a very strong impact on my writing. And